The end result of the World Economic Forum's Great Reset is you will own nothing and be happy. But what if I told you that you could easily lose everything before their evil scheme pans out? I'm not speaking of some dystopian nightmare, but rather the failure to use a strategy of the rich that puts your most cherished worldly possessions and happiness at dire risk. And the chilling truth is, you'll never see it coming. By the end of this video, you will know how the richest people in history, from John D. Rockefeller to today's billionaires, have mastered the art of owning nothing, controlling everything, and building unimaginable wealth. And here's the kicker, you can do it too. And you don't need some expensive, high-powered legal team to pull it off. While the World Economic Forum pushes the idea of owning nothing and be happy as a future reality, the truth is, the wealthy have been using this strategy for years. And it's not about being controlled by the system, it's about using the system to control your assets and protect yourself from lawsuits, taxes, and financial disasters. And we're heading into a new world where this type of protection should be of greater concern than ever before. Here's why. One, with all this new tech, it's getting easier for people to see what you own. This means more lawsuits coming your way, especially if you've got some cash. If you don't protect your stuff legally, you might be in for a world of hurt. Two, the government's cracking down on those sneaky ways rich people avoid taxes. They're talking about wealth taxes and going after offshore accounts. If you haven't protected your money the right way, get ready for a bigger tax bill and maybe even the tax man knocking on your door. Three, the economy's looking shaky and we might be in for a wild ride. If things go south, your savings could go poof. But if you've got your money set up smart, like in special accounts or investments that don't lose value when everything else does, you'll be sitting pretty. Four, cyber attacks are getting crazy. And it's not just big companies at risk. I mean, if you're not careful, you could get sued for a data breach or online fraud. Without the right protection, you could lose everything you own if something goes wrong online. Number five, the government's thinking about making it harder to declare bankruptcy and get out of debt. This means all those fancy ways rich people protect their stuff might not work as well anymore. If you're counting on those to save you in tough times, you might want to think again. Number six, get ready for the tax man to come after your inheritance. The government's looking to take a bigger slice of what you leave behind. If you don't plan ahead with trusts or foundations, your kids might end up with a lot less than you hoped. If your parents don't get their situation in alignment, you might end up with a lot less than you had hoped. Number seven, people are getting pretty mad about how much money the rich have. This could mean more lawsuits from people who feel they've been treated unfairly. If you're wealthy and don't have your assets protected, you might become a target for angry people and their lawyers. Number eight, watch out, property owners and big business investors. People are getting serious about the environment. You could get sued for stuff like pollution or cutting down trees. If you haven't protected your assets, you might lose big time in court. So, what's the secret to protecting you from all of these possibilities? Some are far-fetched, some might have hit home very closely. But let me show you how the rich create their own reality, owning nothing, yet controlling everything. Imagine this, you're driving home after a long day at work, maybe a little distracted, thinking about dinner, and suddenly you hear a loud crash. You've rear-ended someone at a stoplight. No big deal, right? That's why you have insurance. Well, fast forward 6 months, and you're being sued for $2 million. Turns out the other driver was a surgeon who now claims he can't operate due to neck pain. Your insurance, it maxes out at $300,000. Now they're coming after your house, your 401k, even your kid's college fund. I mean, one split-second mistake and your entire life's work is on the chopping block. And this isn't some far-fetched scenario. It actually happened to my neighbor last year, and now he's starting over from scratch at 50. But here's what the wealthy do differently. They never put their assets in their own name. They use legal entities like LLCs and trusts to protect their wealth. For instance, if my neighbor had set up a family limited partnership, an FLP, and transferred his assets into it, he'd be in a much different situation. The FLP would own his house, investments, and other valuable assets, while he'd only own a small portion of the partnership. When the lawsuit hit, there'd be almost nothing in his personal name to go after. He'd still control everything through the partnership, but legally, he'd own next to nothing. That's how the rich stay rich, even when life throws them a curveball. John D. Rockefeller, one of the richest men in history, had a simple rule: own nothing, control everything. He used trusts and corporations to hold his assets, and if someone came after him legally, there was nothing in his name to take. You can use use this same strategy. And this isn't some crazy conspiracy theory. It's a legitimate, proven way to protect your wealth. And you don't have to be wealthy to start. In fact, I'd recommend you start well before you're wealthy. If you're looking for a starting point that will take you all the way to the finish line, I've made arrangements for the Epic community to get a free consultation at freeentity.com. Check it out. You've got nothing to lose except everything you own if you don't check it out. But here's the part no one talks about. The government and financial elites, they don't want you to know about this. Why? Because they want to keep you vulnerable. I mean, if everyone knew how to protect their assets this way, the whole system would change. And here's how. 1, if everyone protected their money like the rich do, the government would see a significant decrease in tax revenue. Wealth would be sheltered from estate taxes, capital gains taxes, and income taxes. If everyone shielded their assets effectively, it would lead to a tax shortfall that could impact everything from infrastructure to social services. 2, lawyers make bank suing people who don't protect their assets. If everyone knew how to shield their wealth, lawyers would have a harder time getting big payouts. They prefer you to stay an easy target. 3, banks love it when you're in debt and scared of losing everything. If you could protect yourself, you might not be as afraid to borrow or even default. That's bad news for the bank's profits. This is what makes the 0% no-cost capital program Chase has right now for real estate investors and business owners so appealing. They're uncollateralized funds, meaning minimal to no recourse. If you have a 680 credit score, no collections or bankruptcies in the last 7 years, check it out at nocostcapital.com. Number 4, the government uses money to control people through monetary policies, tax policies, and regulations. If more people protected their assets, the government's leverage would shrink because they would have fewer ways to confiscate or control private wealth. By keeping people vulnerable and unaware of how to legally protect their wealth, governments maintain power over their citizens' financial futures, using taxation, penalties, and other economic measures to enforce compliance. Crazy, right? Number 5, rich folks want to keep their wealth tricks secret. If everyone knew how to play the game, the rich wouldn't be as special anymore. They don't want you to level the playing field. In fact, they don't want you on their playing field at all. 6, the government counts on getting a big chunk of change when rich people die. If everyone used trust to pass on money, the government would lose out big time. They'd rather you not know how to avoid those taxes. And number 7, and I know this one's hard to believe, but sometimes the government takes people's stuff for unpaid taxes or other reasons. If everyone protected their assets, the government couldn't do this as easily. They prefer to keep you in the dark so they can keep taking when they want. Number 8, if everyone knew these wealth protection secrets, people would get mad and demand changes. The rich and powerful don't want that kind of trouble. They'd rather keep things as they are, with them on top. You know, when I said the government and financial elites don't want you to know about this because they want to keep you vulnerable, it wasn't for dramatic effect. No, it's real. And right now, more than ever, with inflation rising, markets going crazy, and lawsuits waiting around every corner, your wealth and future wealth is under constant threat. Don't wait for disaster to strike. Protect yourself now before it's too late. So, how do you do it? Well, here's the first step. 1, set up an LLC or a trust for your assets, at least. 2, transfer the title out of your personal name and into the entity. And then 3, make sure your insurance, it covers the basics, but let your legal entity be your true protection. This simple step would do a lot for you, and it's very possible to do it all by yourself. But there's just so much more that you can do, and you don't want to get it wrong. So if you have an attorney already, run it by them. If not, get a free consultation at freeentity.com. The rich don't own anything in their name. They control everything through entities that shield them from liability. So the next time you hear you will own nothing and be happy, think about this. By owning nothing, you can actually protect everything that you worked for and live stress-free, knowing your wealth is safe. That's happiness in my world. Now, if you've got to get to work and start building some wealth, I pulled this video out right here for you to watch next. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Hit the like button, subscribe, and share with a friend. Do all that fun stuff. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.